Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Frank. Good to see you.
Same here.
Welcome to another week of Perspective Shift.
Yes, where we're shifting perspectives all the time.
I love it. I'm excited.
Gets me out of trouble.
Good week?
Yeah, it's a good week, yeah.
Good.
So I'm a little sore in the back. It's actually better, though. But so yesterday, I don't know. I got out of hand. I felt like I was 21 years old, which I probably did. You know? But I did a lot of workouts yesterday. I did a full back workout yesterday, and then later on, my buddy wanted to go bouldering, and that's indoor. And, you know, there's no harness. So if you slip and fall, you're falling out the match. You're not going to kill yourself. But I remember we'll go up. I mean, this is the first time I've ever done it.
I've never done bouldering. I've only been harnessed.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it was fun, you know. So I went up and made it all the way to the top. I was coming down, and I slipped. And, you know, they teach you how to fall, but they teach you from like 2 feet up. Like I fell at
like 10 feet?
Oh, it wasn't that far.
Okay.
So the highest the wall I think is 15. So if you know you're stretched out, you know you're not really falling that far, right? But it's probably 5. I just hit and I just hit wrong. And I felt something, but I kept going. You know?
You're like, oh, I felt that one.
Yeah. This is what's even funnier. Karen's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Going bowling with Jason." She's like, "You're gonna kill yourself." I'm like, "Why would you say that? Like, why would you put that in my head, right?" So I came home and I was fine. But then I was the night.
You're like, shit, I can't tell her.
No, I had to hide it until I laid on.
Hide it. Oh, that's so awesome.
So I'm laying on the bed. And I couldn't get up. I'm like, shit, Karen, come here.
I didn't tell you, but I did get hurt.
Yeah,
I totally got hurt.
So all of a sudden, I'm like,
I'm
awesome. Feeling. So I have the massage gun. She's using that on me. And then we have this balm, I forgot the name, but like a blue emo type of thing.
Okay.
You know, icy hot type stuff.
It's
really good stuff. What was funny is, Karen, I'm like, yeah, get that stuff. She's like, we have that? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's under the sink or whatever. And she goes, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, why? She's like, you remember like a week ago I had a pain in my neck and you didn't bring it up then? I'm like, yeah, I didn't think about it. So this is where it gets funny. You know what she did?
What?
I'm sitting on the couch waiting for her to bring it out. And she goes, so this thing here that we knew was in the cabinet, you didn't tell me about a week ago? I'm like, no. So she takes it, puts it on the floor right near the front door, right in front of my view on the couch. She goes, we're going to leave it there for a week.
Go get it.
No, it's like, you can't use it for a week. I'm like, that's not the same. It didn't occur to me. It's like, no, you knew it was in there. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. She goes, well, we're just going to leave it right here. I'm like, can you please just give me this stuff? She goes, it's going to stay there for a week.
I like Karen's style.
Yeah. You know, Mr. Bobby, you ever watch that movie Good Will Hunting?
Oh, of course.
Remember that scene with Ben Affleck and Casey Affleck?
Yeah.
They're in the car and I guess they get the food. He brings the food in and Ben Affleck's driving the car. And Casey's like, hey, give me my sandwich. And Ben Affleck's like, he owed him money. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'm going to put your sandwich up here, and you can pay me like 13 cents a week or whatever it was, and it's on layaway.
Yep.
That's what Karen did
Just
to me.
like that.
Karen,
oh, that's awesome.
So
nicely done, Karen.
Sorry, Karen.
That's seriously awesome, though.
Yeah, so.
You feeling all right today?
Oh, yeah, I feel good.
Good.
Yeah, because it's all in the mind.
That's it.
It's all in the mind.
You'll make it through.
It's not. I have to change bodies when we're done.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll make it through.
I'm excited for this week's episode.
Yeah, Billy Carson.
Yes. Billy Carson is our guest that we'll be covering today. Billy's a unique gentleman, man. I remember I first saw him. I think the first time I saw him was probably on like a Gaia series. Yeah,
he's been on a lot of content on Gaia and even like the History Channel.
Yeah, he does those like Alien Expo, like type of Discovery Channel, ancient civilization type of stuff.
And he's like a leading expert in a lot of these ancient texts.
Well, he actually goes there.
Oh, yeah.
He's not just somebody who reads a book in his house and then writes about this. He takes trips.
Yeah, and he's very he's good friends with like because what's his name? Greg Braden's big into that.
Oh, hell yeah!
So but he's got like this highly intellectual side to him. Yes. But he correlates everything. So everything from the Bible to the Emerald Tablets and everything he's read.
He's big on Thoth.
Yeah. So I believe he's read like over 1,000 texts dealing with the understanding of this mysticism of life, where religions were found and now in the new age of understanding quantum physics explain it. So he has a correlation or understanding to where they all meet. So I know a lot of his videos, he'll talk about stuff. He's just kind of breaking it apart, but everything leads to this one point, and he does it brilliantly. He's like the Renaissance man of this idea, because not only is he intellectually sound on it, again, it's good to do that. A lot of us do that, but he actually practices it, and through the practice, that's when he gets people to notice. So he, is everything from his own network station, Forbidden Knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a member.
He's a total entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah. And he also he's got several books out, but he also has a publishing company. He has a record label. He has all this stuff. And he obviously has directed movies. He's been in documentaries, so he's an actor as well.
Well, total a serial entrepreneur. And the thing I love about Billy is, like, once you understand these concepts, once you understand this reality that we're working with, why not create your own network? Why not, have your own record label? Why not get out there and build this multi-level brand that he's created with Forbidden Knowledge?
Yeah.
It's all at our fingertips. And how do we do it? With the mind. And that's what Billy's about. He's sitting here saying, look, guys, and we can create anything and everything that we can imagine. So let's do it.
Yeah, and something leads me to believe he's not doing it because he's trying to gain an empire. Mm-hmm. He goes, there's nobody else doing it. You actually do have Gaia out there, you have this, but he can get more specific. So, but the thing is this. Years ago, when you look at the networks, you had like NBC, and ABC, and Fox, and all these, like, 4 big networks, ABC. And that was it. But now you have all these multitude ones. Right now, who do you have? Yeah, you have Gaia. And now you have Forbidden Knowledge. Mm-hmm. And everything else, like you'll see like the History Channel talk about stuff. But they talk about it. They don't get as deep. And again, they don't want to scare the hell out of their audience. Mm-hmm. But Billy will go pretty deep. He'll go as deep as you want to go.
Well, it's so funny. After like
he'll take you deep.
After like midnight, you turn on like Discovery Channel, and it's all about ancient civilizations.
Yeah, because no right-minded person's up
aliens,
at the moment. Yeah.
UFOs.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's cool. And Billy's taking this, and he's putting his own spin on it.
Yeah, what's that George Norrie?
Personal
Coast
knowledge.
To Coast?
Yeah, George Norrie's awesome. George Norrie has a show and a radio show that you're talking about.
Coast to Coast. But that would go on like pretty late at night.
Yeah. Same type of thing.
You don't want the kids listening to this stuff. Why? Because they won't listen to you.
That's all part of the social conditioning. And Billy talks about that, the different levels of social conditioning that we have around these different concepts and these ideas, why they exist. And that's something that I also love about him, is that he dives into those and he explains, like, hey, look, this is what we've been taught. And he kind of like points out the fallacies, and he very much so does it in a way where it makes sense. It's you understand, like, oh, okay. And he brings these different pieces, like you were saying, Frank, from modern to, way back when, these different pieces of history, and ties them all together. And you can see the correlation between everything. Yeah,
because the principles and the concepts that we talk about have never changed since they were actually created or came to an understanding as what we call empirical law. It's just throughout time, people have taken the text and put it to their advantage, and that's actually what you would call witchcraft, when you're trying to take a bit of information and you're trying to control it, especially through others. It wasn't meant to be controlled. The wind isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to flow with. Just put the sail up and let the wind. But the wind, through thought, will move in the direction in which you want to go. But you don't control the wind. You control your thought, and the wind comes. It's kind of like how he explains it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about him, too. The other thing, like, let's just do a little background on him.
Yeah.
So here's a person that literally, that old saying is pulled himself up by his bootstraps, which is I always think that's funny because, you have to levitate to do that.
Truly do
which
that.
I think Billy levitates. But he grew up, I think he was born in, 71?
New York.
Queens, New York. I was born in Queens. I was born in Bayside. Then I moved out to Long Island.
Which is awesome.
And, the story goes, his dad was an alcoholic and a drug addict. The mom thought it'd be good for them to move down to Florida. So he moved down to Miami in one of the worst neighborhoods. It was so bad, the way he explains it, they had the crime fenced in. So he was fenced in. The fence wasn't to keep crime out. It was to keep it contained. And I believe So obviously it made it worse for his dad because Miami was probably at that time, you going into that period, that's when drugs,
Absolutely.
the movement of drugs into this country was, permeated like.
Well, it's near water. That's how they transport it.
Yeah, from Miami. Yeah, exactly. So cocaine mainly. Yep. But so anyway, so he was down there, and by the age of 7, if I'm not mistaken, he tells the story, he realized nobody was coming to save him. He was on his own. And because he let go of something, he actually found, and so he was practicing these principles, which led him to see what was out there. So he knew this instinctively before he intellectually knew it.
Very early age.
Yeah. But
I was not thinking these thoughts at 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old.
No. My dad was still holding my bike seat.
That's what I'm saying.
I had a pretty good childhood comparative,
Mm-hmm.
But then later on I had to overcome the concepts because I didn't do it to revolt. I did it because it wasn't working. Where he's just like, I got to let go of all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it led him to this way, and then it led him to, he brilliant guy, just into like, MIT, right?
Oh, yeah.
Harvard.
I think that's so cool. The MIT and the Harvard aspect is awesome.
So he had the brain capacity, intellectual capacity to make it there, even under the way of living. So anyone that has an excuse to why they're not living a good life, go talk to Billy.
Yeah. he paints a very clear picture of just how much we are creating our own reality.
We are.
And like Frank was saying, based on his background, what he grew up, one of the other things from him growing up was he's an entrepreneur since he was a kid.
Yeah.
In
that case, he had to be.
He had to be.
Because I think he said, because his family wasn't making much money. And so I believe the story goes that he was making more money by the age of 13 than his mother and father together combined. Which, people like, that's a lot of pressure. But I think that pressure pushed him, just like, carbon pressure makes a diamond, so to speak.
Well, he started selling different things, and then he eventually got into, car stereo or, stereo resale, wholesale.
Electronics, yeah.
Yep, and he started wholesaling that, and, that's kind of how he put some money in his pocket. But like Frank was saying, then he went on, to study, at, MIT and Harvard. Guys, these are next level, intellectual institutions within our country. Not to say that means anything on a reality level, but it absolutely. Not very many people go to MIT and go to Harvard, and I think that it speaks volumes to his level of intellect.
Yeah, but he goes in there and then breaks the ceiling apart, because even what he learned, like he obviously went to Harvard for studying ancient Egyptian, ancient culture, and neurology at
MIT.
But since the time he's been there, when you get into these sciences like neurology, there's been a huge explosion, and we knew it. Intellectually, we didn't know it, but instinctively, we knew that we were able to change the way we changed our neurons.
Yeah, the neural pathways, how we process information.
Yeah, and he talks about that a lot, just by understanding. But in order to do so, you have to know it's possible. And so him educating himself in these old texts, what he's laying out for us, like you can go and study it, but what he's laying out, and this is what I like to do, is kind of have an understanding. I have an intuitive understanding of this. But when he lays it out, it's just like, okay. Well, if they were doing it back then and we're doing it here, and we come to just understanding that this has always been here, this information's always been here, it's just been explained differently. The correlation is uncanny to actually sit there and say, this doesn't work.
That's exactly what he marries so perfectly.
Yeah.
The intellect of today, by an MIT, by a Harvard, but then takes us back thousands of years and say, guys, we've been told this for millennia. We've been told this for thousands and thousands of years. And let's start applying it. We're teaching it at MIT. We're teaching these concepts at Harvard. We're talking and discussing these. Well, we also see them found in these ancient texts, these tablets. He takes it back to Egyptian times, all that, and says, look, they've been telling us how to use this instrument of consciousness that we call a body for thousands of years. So let's be the creators that we are, and stop, giving into this idea that the world is happening to us.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's kind of like we are the technology. Everyone's
We
waiting
are
for
the world.
technology. So the technology, such as this laptop in front of me and all this other stuff we're using, is, in a sense, allowing us to move towards to where one day we won't need it.
Mm-hmm.
But the master is the concept in which uses it. The technology is the servant and allows the information to come through, not the other way around. So as we move more into this, further into it, because we come to understand, he talks about this, the reason the technology we have here is because we came to an understanding we already knew it was here. It necessarily, to those who don't understand it, it popped out of thin air, but to those who actually came to know it and what we call developed it, they actually knew it was here. They just came to know it. Well, people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, one of the ways, he talks about this too, is you have to shut out all, because, hey, it's worth it. Step aside all your concepts of what you think about life. Just for a moment. Put it aside. Put your persona to the side. Put everything aside. And the act of meditation allows us to do that. And when you open up and you get into this quiet place, all of a sudden you get bits of information. In the beginning, it's going to be just a little bit. That's all you need. Actually, every time it's a little bit. But each little bit adds up to a lot of bits, right? It's just how life is. You keep dropping water into the ocean, you have an ocean. Mm-hmm. But yet, it's endless. And all of a sudden, you start to see things beyond the place. And what it is, a lot of what we're taught wasn't that it was completely out of left field. It was just backwards. All right? We're putting the cart in front of the horse rather than the horse in front of the cart. So when we start to realize the outside world is a depiction of how I look at it and the collective consciousness of the world. So I could step into a neighborhood and know the collective consciousness of this neighborhood. I also have the capacity to hold my state of consciousness, and then I can affect the consciousness of that place. But if I don't know that, I run screaming, I get the hell out of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And that's what creates separation. So that's what created religion. I pray different, so you got to go over here. But they're taking the bit of information, and then they're putting a fence around it where the bit of information doesn't need a fence. And that's how these different sectors of different religions came in, and then you get these crazy ways of looking at it. But if you go to the actual original text and you read it without any parameters, any fence around it, it's like, wow. Wow. So you go to the Emerald Tablets, in which he talks about a lot, and even into the Bible, you see the same stories. They're told differently. All right? And he gets even more into, like, this text came from this text, all right? I'm not a study of that, but I came to understand these principles that they've always been around. And even if these texts weren't written, we would still instinctively know it. Like, no one even needs to read the Bible to know that if you're living a life and it's not working, something ought to be working better. Why? Because we become efficient human beings. It means we're doing something that isn't efficient, it isn't working. And what is it? Well, we were taught to do it this way.
We innately know all of these concepts. Like, if you talk to anybody and you just say,
everyone does.
Hey, your attitude, how you perceive things, will affect your experience. Everybody's like, yeah, that's true.
They just don't know enough.
It's hard to practice it.
Well, it's
getting out of the mind to practice it.
Yeah.
It's all this habit. It's just a pattern that we have running through our heads.
It's hard to let go of your old concepts. Mm-hmm. But once you do, the practicing is easy.
But the cool thing is about Billy is he says he discusses these concepts in a very real and like genuine way, like very realistic. I remember one time I heard him. So he's got a few different books, but one of his books is called like "Being Woke Doesn't Mean Being Broke." And I thought this was great because I was listening to him speak at one of the consciousness expos in LA, and one of the things he said was he's like, guys, if I'm up here talking to you about like all these different concepts, but I don't have enough, or I don't have the ability to manifest enough money to pay my electrical bill, how believable am I?
Yeah.
How serious can you take me? And there's a lot of truth to that. And I would say 99% of people would be like, yeah, absolutely. Give me some proof. Like, what do you mean? You can't even afford to pay your bills? How does manifestation work? And he's got a great point there. He's like, look, if you're going to be out there, preaching these concepts and discussing them, you damn well better be applying them in your daily life.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about it is there's no separation of the application of these things. So you can look at the idea of economics in your life. You could look at the idea of health in your life. You could look at the idea of family in life. You could look at the idea of spirituality in life. But whatever component you look at in your life, the principles are the same. So, again, what I mean is the understanding of the principle is the same. Like, so he teaches, that book is about the basic economics, and it helps a lot of impoverished people to realize they're not impoverished.
Correct.
They're just taught wrong. And if someone told me to get in a car and R meant like ride and D meant dead, I would stay away from D. And meanwhile, D means drive and R means reverse. So all of a sudden I slip into R thinking I'm riding, and then I realize, oh man! And so now
I've been using this wrong the entire time.
Yeah, and I got
this instrument,
and my neck is stiff. You gotta drive like this. So, but yet the car still moved. It still worked, but you were riding in reverse. Mm-hmm. And you stayed the hell away from D because someone said it meant dead, and we know what dead means, the end of it. Mm-hmm. So you stayed away from it, and then conceptually, why do they have a D anyway? Well, in case you want to end the ride.
In case you're done.
Yeah, so someone convinced us that D meant dead and R means ride, and we've been driving in reverse. But yeah, we get places, but we get there, we got a stiff neck, and
he's here to help us learn how to drive this instrument of consciousness.
D means drive, R means reverse, and now the journey begins.
Yeah, and that's what he gets at.
Yeah, he does. And he gets out there brilliantly. He's highly intellectual. He talks at a pretty good pace.
Oh yeah,
he gets a lot of content.
He's just like very direct. Like a lot of people, who speak about these concepts will be kind of loose. Where Billy's just like, look, this is how it is, and I like that, and I appreciate it. He's a very real.
Yeah,
gentleman.
Some people have like a slight uncertainty about it. I'm like, should I say it this way? He's just like, this is how it is. Mm-hmm. And he'll use examples and stuff. If you disagree in how he uses examples, just try to refrain from looking at it from a different viewpoint. Because if you listen to a lot of his content, he'll always come around and explain it. But a lot of times people just take snippets and like, this. I'm like, no. I'm like, that's one of the, I don't want to say problem, but that's one of the symptoms of humans today, is they want to watch a 5-minute clip and understand something. I'm like, this man studied for, I don't know, 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say years,
better,
decades.
Yeah, better than 20 years. I'm like, talking about, he's like 50 years old now.
Yep.
Of this stuff, he started studying as a child, so he's been studying most of his life. And then he has like a video, and a video might run for 5 minutes, and people are like, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. It's because it's a snippet of what he's trying to explain. He can't fully explain everything, but a video like that, to me, is a teaser. I'm like, what's he talking about? Let me go more into it. And then you start your own journey of searching. So people like him prompt you to start studying down this line. You don't have to study exactly what he does, but if you see the correlation in everything, there's something there. Well, and that's what he explains.
One cool thing, at least from everything I watch and I read about Billy, is he is fascinated with Egyptian culture, but he really likes this the identity Thoth or Thoth. I don't know how you say it, but like the Egyptian guy of the mask, like that looks like a bird, and he explains the history of Thoth better than anyone I have ever heard talk about it. He explains like the history of he's lived multi-generational lives, like hundreds of years, if not longer, and then he explains how Thoth or Thoth. Well,
I think it was like 1,000 lifetimes.
Yeah. And then he was Hermetics. What's that guy's name? Hermes Trismegistus. Yeah. How he was that same identity, and that carried on, and that's where we have Hermetics. As below, as above, so below. These concepts.
Below as above.
Correct.
Keep people. You got to finish that because people don't realize that it's not just above affecting below, but it's below affecting above.
It's a circle.
So it's a circle, yeah. So, and the reason he goes into that, he wants to go far back to the basis of what we call in this planet where things were scribed. Mm-hmm. So, you can go back to the Bible, but we know things existed before the Bible. Like, how do you know that? I'm like, because it's the people that preceded the Bible. So then these stories go back to the ancient Egyptian, and you start to read all this stuff. And he's actually been there numerous times.
And he talks about that. He goes there and gets his hands dirty. He sees it for himself. He doesn't just take somebody's word for it that he read about.
No. And it's interesting because I remember as a young child studying ancient Egypt. I thought it was wild, but a lot of the information they told us is there was nothing like this.
No.
Yeah, nothing like this. And now it kind of makes more sense. Like the tombs, like a lot of them were kind of like these chambers of pulling in like sound frequency vibration. So it could be used for numerous things, creating electricity, so power plants, healing centers. We're all electromagnetic fields. So if you're in the right tune, the right field, you are what we call healthy. And if you're healthy, you can transmit frequencies and energy, electromagnetic field yourself. You are an individual power plant. You are a Tesla coil walking around.
I'm pretty sure this was a quote from Billy that I heard him say one time. But there's enough energy just in our body that we are a walking nuclear bomb. Yeah. We are nuclear energy. We are so powerful, we have no idea the amount of energy that flows through us.
Yeah. Well, we are. So we are.
And he's trying to help us harness that.
Yeah. So if you look at the universe as all powerful and energy, how much energy is in the universe? We are a microcosm, or what they call a fractal of that. So we are the universe. Yep. We're just a component in the way we're shaped. It's just a different frequency, and we're all like, from human standpoint, we're all shaped somewhat similar, but we're all different. We have all different identification. We notice that with our fingerprints is a good example to do that.
Yep.
But we are. And as we come to understand this, now reading his text, listening to his information will wake you up to an understanding, but then the practice is onto you, onto us to do it. Once you start doing it, then it's like, come on, this works. It's never ending, by the way. But once you wake up to the concept, that's when the journey really begins. It's like when you've been driving in reverse because you thought that meant ride and that's the only way you can go, and someone convinced you that D wasn't dead, it meant drive, then you're like, oh my God, I don't need a chiropractor now. My neck is fine. And then all of a sudden driving becomes easier.
Enjoyable.
Simplistic. So the reason we work hard is because the misunderstanding of these principles and laws that Billy Carson talks about. But once you do it, we don't work hard, and you'll rarely find yourself sitting on the couch because your energy feels so high. I think the couch is invented by someone who worked really hard. Or knew that a lot of people are going to work hard, so I better invent something that people can lounge out on. Right?
And relax.
Yeah, relax. There's a lot of money in relaxation, right? Hammocks, couches, those little things you put in the pool of floaties, right? There's a bunch of people floating around. Remember that movie?
That's awesome.
WALL-E?
Which one?
WALL-E?
Yeah.
Remember, like, they show all the people up in the spaceship and their skeletons shrunk in there. So if you listen to Billy Carson, you won't turn into one of those people. I don't mean to make a joke of it. No, seriously, when you listen to it, his principles out there, and you start acting on it, because we're a walking nuclear power plant, why are we tired by 5 o'clock in the afternoon? That's just ridiculous. Yeah, we ran out of energy, but you are a transmitting nuclear machine. I don't know. But what happens is we defer the energy is what's happening.
It's lost in thought, thinking,
But how do you go to sleep the next day and have it? It's not like, someone plugged you in. It's because you're already plugged into the universe. And if you realize that at any moment, just the way I let go of thought and immerse myself in the feeling, I expand my electromagnetic field.
He talks about that.
Yes. As I expand my electromagnetic field, it keeps feeding. Now it's what we consider to be perpetual motion. Some people don't believe in perpetual motion, but there's a lot of physicists saying, like, actually, if there wasn't perpetual motion, how does this universe keep expanding? Yes, we see this cell burn out and die, but it gives birth to another one. That's part of the perpetuation. But, this battery will die, we have to get another one. I'm like, yeah, but there's a missing link in that aspect of it. As we go in, one day you'll just be driving a car, and just by the simple movement, it will keep regenerating. You want to stop at a gas station. He talks about that technology. The technology is here, but we're just not using it. And I think why he has such girth and what's passionate about it is like, people, wake up. It's here, and people are waking up because he's got the intellect to back it, but he's also doing it, and that's I think that's what happens when people do that and back it up. He's not just some crazy guy on a cart saying the world's coming to an end. It's like, back it up, because the guy's been there saying that for 30 years. The world's coming to an end.
Well, and he's actually really funny about, the way he talks about religion versus spirituality. He talks about, like, guys, if you're waiting for, like you just mentioned, the world's going to end, or our Savior's going to come back and get us. He's going, what are you talking about? Our world has been in such more dire circumstances thousands and thousands of years ago. We're living like kings now, and he talks about this all the time. Yeah. And he's like, guys, like, we have running water.
Cell phones, for love of God.
Oh yeah, no, just running water.
Yeah, look at me and Mike have our own show right now.
Yes.
Years ago, you had to have like a network. A network we never
to put
approved,
something
me
like
and
this
Mike.
out. No. These concepts, that he addresses are important. The way he goes about discussing them are great, but like, he breaks them down so it's easy to digest and it's easy to understand. And he's very much so a believer in the power that each one of you has within you. And he found that power, that self in himself from at a very early age. We're talking 7, 8, 9, 10. He realized, I need to be the one moving things forward. And so, like, when I listen to him talk, people reference, God did this, or, God gave me that job. And Billy will say, no.
Or he would, but I am God.
That's it. And that Billy talks about this very specifically. Like, you are God. You very much so are. And this is something that Jesus was teaching. And, religion has, created this tale around, history or around Jesus and all this stuff. But he says it from a place of that goes beyond that and breaks down in a scientific way, too, what we're discussing. Yeah. And that's what I like.
Yeah, and if you listen to him, and then the beautiful thing, he's so intellectual, brings you right to the fence. Now, if you just step onto the fence, onto the other side, and start to practice this, then you'll get more of the intellect of what he's talking about, just more and more. But once you step on that right side, or like if west was the direction you wanted to head and you've been walking east your whole life, there isn't an amount of west one needs. Just face it. And walking is something you've always been doing. Believing is something you've always been doing. But what are you believing in? I must do this, this, and this, and I'll get this. And if you just bow face, and you're like, now it's like, what do I have to believe in? Believe in your thoughts are all power. And if you get a thought and you act on it, it will come true. Now, again, know the field of thought. That's why we use this physics, and he'll talk about this. You can use this for good or evil, right? And if I'm trying to control someone, that's evil, right? But if I'm trying to relinquish someone, that's good. Now, it's up to them to take it. But if I use it in the principle where I'm expanding, I'm collaborating, I'm uplifting, it's going to be such a smoother ride. But when we're in the direction of trying to control, I have to start a culture, like a secret society, and not letting it out. And then I have to worry about the people realizing something's wrong. Why do they have all the money? Why they have all the good stuff? And then I have to worry about them killing me. So then I have to put a wall up around my thing. And then I'll let just a certain handful of people in. A lot of religions are like that, which is crazy. He was telling a story one time. He was on the beach in Miami, mm-hmm. And he's standing there just kind of just soaking it, looking at the ocean. He hears footsteps behind, and it was a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're talking about trying to sell him on it. And it's just funny because it's funny if they knew who he was, they would have walked the other way.
Yeah, they would have not approached Billy.
Damn, right? And so they started with this spiel, and he's like, "Well, just answer me a couple of questions." And he asked him, "Who started Jehovah's Witness?" And the person couldn't answer that, and Billy knew who started it. He started asking him all these questions, and then he's like, "Well, in your religion, you believe that only 144,000 people can go to heaven." And the person's like, "Yeah, right." He's like, "How many people do you think are on the planet?" And the woman's like 3 million. And he goes, 3 million?
7.7 billion.
Yeah, there's more than 3 million people that are going to show up at the speech today.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's 7.8 or 8 billion people on the planet. It's like, if your religion only says 144,000 is going to go in there, you might want to keep that a secret, because you might not make it in. And it was funny, because then he's like, her mind just blew up. And it was funny, because why are you spreading the word if there's only a couple seats on the spaceship in which you're getting on? Like, you might sneak onto that thing. And the woman, like the way he explained, looked at her like her brain blew up.
Truly.
Because she had no idea conceptually, no idea intellectually what she was even talking about. She just simply bought into something and then was told, tell this to as many people as you can.
Correct.
Yeah. And
which is honestly a very common theme in all religions.
It is. But yeah, when you go to the basis of all religions, where the fundamental understanding is, it's all sound. But it was never to gather or manipulate. It was just, if you want to do if you do this, and this appears, that wasn't what happened. That was just the correlation of it. That wasn't the true causation. The true causation goes way beyond the ability to actually fully explain. But it's here. And once you start to ponder that and look at it, you start to exercise it. And the more you exercise it, all of a sudden you're like, wow, this works. And actually, when it works, you come across somebody that is having a rough time. You know how to respond gently. You don't cast pearls to swine. But you find a way, because you find a kind way of explaining it. If someone's hungry, if someone's starving, you just want to give them a little bit of food. If you give them a full meal, they get sick. So just give them a little morsel and let the stomach digest that, and here's more. And next thing you know, you teach them how to find their own food. And you realize, I am not your savior. I'm just a guy with a sandwich. It's all I am. It's a guy with a sandwich. You can have a piece, because I know how to get another sandwich. But here's a piece of my sandwich. Don't eat the whole thing at once. You're going to get sick. And then you're going to think it's the sandwich that got you sick.
And that's, Jesus' role was to come here to help explain these concepts, not for us to worship him.
No.
If he came down, he'd say, what the hell is everybody doing?
Yeah,
why are you guys worshiping me?
Yeah, worship. And that's what, because
I told you, anything outside of you is a false idol.
Yeah.
Go within. The kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yeah, and Billy Carson talks about that, because he's a high intellect. You could place him against anyone. The guy went to MIT and Harvard, obviously. And it's interesting, when you watch him do his talks, he'll have maybe a bullet point up, but this man remembers.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. His memories is, but he's also saying, don't praise me. You are God too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to know. We need to know alike, but think differently. The knowing is that we're almighty. How I use my almighty, I'll know once I know that. But if I'm trying to replicate someone, like, oh, shit, I got to go back and read the Emerald Tablets, that's not what Billy's telling you.
Nope.
If you want to, if it occurs to you, do it. But he's not telling you. He's just showing you the correlations, everything you've been reading up to this point. Matter of fact, at a point, you have to step beyond the text of anything in order to experience it. The text is just saying, okay, when I jump off this cliff, I'm going to learn to fly. Well, I need to read more books to realize that. And then you jump off, you fly. Well, no more text needed. Now you're writing your own text. You're writing your own code in your body. And that's what it's meant for. So at some point, once school's done, what we call here on Earth, we have K through 12, and then you go to college, is text. But when you get out into the real world, you're still learning, but there's no more text. You're on your own. Well, start on your own right at this moment. Even if you're a kid listening to this, doesn't mean quit school. Don't have your parent text me, though. Frankie said the least.
Quit school from Perspective Shift told me to.
Yeah, can you imagine? No, school's an experience, but look at your school differently. Quitting your school is not looking at your school differently. It's not going to get any closer to understanding what we're talking about. Not going to college isn't going to get you any closer. I'm not saying go to college, but sit down and contemplate these things. Are you being drawn to this? Are you being drawn to that? And if you're not being drawn to anything, ask yourself, why aren't you being drawn? Because that means your electromagnetic field is weak. But once your electromagnetic field and excitement comes up, you're going to be drawn to something seems that way. Actually, things are drawn to you, and then you respond and react to them, and you act on them. So get into the field, get into that place of being, and then the doing is brilliant.
I think a lot of us too, the way we perceive how we came here, why we're here, all that plays a big role. The more I learn about these concepts and understand, I chose this life way before I came here. My parents didn't just have me and then now I'm this being. No. I've been here thousands of times before this, and I picked this life. I chose my parents. I wanted to have this experience. That is a whole different way of looking at life than, oh, I'm here now, and now I'm fighting to survive, and my parents had me. I didn't even want to come here. Bullshit. That's a weird narrative that we in a Western culture have really ran with. We chose this role. We chose this moment. We chose to be here. We chose our family. We chose our hero's journey. We chose all of this. And until we start to look at it that way and take responsibility, we're just blaming the world outside of us and saying, this is happening to me. No, you're happening to yourself.
And I know that's I remember when I first heard that concept, I couldn't buy into it years ago. And I'm going to try to do my best of explaining it. People at first thought, well, if that's the case, why don't we remember? Well, it's not that we don't remember, but remembering the experience that we're having, you can't. And what I mean is, you're like an actor signing up for a role, but they don't remember the movie they're about to do. They don't. They're given a script. Yes, I know the character. I know the theme. But when they get on the set, they're going to know every character. They might even know the actual actor, the soul that they're acting with. But they don't know what they're doing until they're on there. It's not their job to do that and how they're going to respond. But the experience isn't had yet. But when you understand without remembering, but actually when you start to understand it, you start to remember. But you don't want to remember too much of old things to interfere. But I know enough. Just like a child knows how to walk, they know how to take the food from their hand and shove it in their mouth. They're not like, I'm hungry. Yep. It's like it's your mouth. There's memories encoded into us in our DNA. But everything else is a new
Billy talks about that.
Yeah, everything else is a new experience. So, that's the difference. Just like a car is built, but we have to get into it to experience the drive to California. It doesn't have it programmed in it until we do it. So this is why trying to if that was true, why don't we remember it? You do remember it. Just like you remembered how to walk, you remember how to talk, you remember how to climb a tree. No one taught me how to climb a tree. I just did it. But it wasn't until I did it till I realized I remembered it. And all of a sudden, when you start experiencing these things, all of a sudden, wow. So what we're overcoming here isn't the magnificence of the waking up to this stuff. It's letting go of what we were taught that was wrong, that was backwards. That's the awakening. It's like, holy shit. Someone's like, you want to climb a tree, you have to have a 50-pound boulder on your back, and you're a 10-year-old kid. You're not going to climb a tree. Like, who set that precedence? Mm-hmm. It's the person who doesn't want to see the kid climb the tree. And then what they'll do is they'll say, if you pay me, I'll give you a 20-pound boulder. I'll make your life easier. So you give them money. Okay, I make up the first branch. If you pay me even more, I'll give you a 10-pound boulder. But then at the end of the day, when there's no boulders to sell, you're like, wait a minute. I could have been doing this at 10. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, how many boulders did you buy before you could climb the tree? Climbing the tree was natural. So much natural things. This is why Jesus came in and said, become childlike. Let go of the childish ways. But the childlike state, we're in that. We don't know enough to know this couldn't be done.
It's only the thinking mind, the created identity that thinks we know all. Yeah. Oh, I've done this before. I know what I'm doing.
But once you realize someone sold you a 50-pound boulder and you just relieve it off your back, don't get upset at them. Laugh. Because now you no longer hold, now it's like, now actually you can climb the tree quicker.
Well, what are some of these 50-pound boulders? Let's give some examples. You got to go to college to be successful. What are some other 50-pound boulders?
Well, you have to be smart, and this is the identification of what smart is. you must be smarter than that kid.
Competition.
Yeah. If you let every kid go their own way without like comparing, every kid would understand quantum physics to the best of their ability. They would understand geometry to the best of their ability, to the best of their ability in which they need to. Just like every actor that goes on this movie set doesn't need to know what that actor's doing. Mm-hmm. All right? It's the full picture. But everyone's trying to make everyone like this. So if everyone was like this, who's doing this to where they can enjoy themselves doing that? Where's the reflection? If everyone was the owner of the business, who's running the business? Mm-hmm. If ever, and we're all masters of our own lives. But whether I'm cleaning up the building in which the billionaire owns, I'm still a master of my domain. And I take responsibility for that. And also the master of the building who owns the building has complete and understanding, if they do, that we're all the same. Because if I don't have a clean building, what am I a master of? There's a difference when you look at it, but it's one complete organism. So if I own the building and it's not clean, it's a horrible organism. But if it's clean, every attribute, everything, it's filled with people, things are whopper. Everyone's working to their own domain. No one needs to be controlled.
It's now
Nobody
flowing.
needs to be controlled. It's one organism. Like, what's the best part of the tree? So the roots to hold it in. But what's the purpose of the roots without the trunk, and the trunk without the leaves and all these other things? It's all one organism. Yes, you can look at the roots. Yes, you can look at this. So the idea of a tree and roots is feed the energy system or the internal and everything else will grow. Yeah. So again, instead of riding reverse, you're riding in drive, but the car is still the car. And as we come to understand that, there is no better part of the car, but if you're riding reverse, it's just a very laborious act of driving. So you can't even separate the roots from the outspring of the tree. But you just need to give attention to the roots and allow the rest to take care of itself. Give attention to your inner being, and the outside world will take care of itself. But everyone wants you to give attention to the outside world, and you wonder why you're rotten from inside. And you don't get it. That's why, I know statistically, you got 1% of people that are highly wealthy or highly successful, and then you got 20% of people that are at the top of every industry. Well, that means we're failing 80% of our population. And then to get to the up, we're failing 99% of our population. Like, why? That's not a good system. Everyone should be passing. It's because the narrative we're trying to do, we're making a narrative to it, and it's not.
Scarcity, lack, competition.
Yeah. But once the thing is once I found out about that, I didn't get upset. I laughed.
Well, yeah, getting laughed
like,
keeps you stuck
God.
in the. Or
well, it's
getting
like,
mad keeps you stuck in the game.
Yeah, like when Karen put that thing out near the door, I laughed. It's like, yeah, you want this? Here it is.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, it's a game.
As soon as you can let go of that and see the game for what it is, that's when life really starts. Yeah,
and so now you don't go back and try to blame. Oh my God, I got to find the guy who sold me the boulders when I was a child. Why? Because if I learned to climb the tree when I was 10, I'd be so far off. I'm like, stop it. You could change it right now. You don't need to go back to when you were 10. This moment right now, you could face west, and once you face west, you're already there. But this is more there, more there, more there, more there. It never ends. We live on a round planet, by the way. You could always head west. You could always head east. What direction you want to head? You're never going to get to this empirical there, but you can be and move in that direction. And that's all it means. So once I found out I had a boulder, I was like, oh my God, they got me. They got me, sons of bitches. And I high-five them from an understanding, but because now I realize that wasn't necessary. But if I went back and got like, why are you pissed? Well, they made me climb a tree with a boulder. Like, well, now you know that why you're so pissed. Well, I wish I knew then. I'm like, why? It makes no sense. It's now you're eating up your energy yourself. Mm-hmm. So, and Billy Carson talks about these principles in depth.
He does.
Yeah.
I say we kick off with one of his clips.
Let's do it. All right. Here we go.
Cool.
Check out.
Very well said.
Yeah. And that's what it is. But understand, he talks about this too. Wasn't really brought up, but we're always manifesting. And he's talking about being specific to what you want. But all the things that you have and don't like, you're manifesting those as well.
Yep.
Everything. Works. It works. So
entirely.
What's the chatter in your head? I can't do this. I can't do that. Oh, this is going to be a pain in the ass. Today's going to be... Like, even if you're not out loud speaking, that's what your mind's doing. Now, when you actually listen to that, and you just sit back, and that's what meditation helps you do. You sit, meditate, and you just hear all these thoughts like, oh, my God, work's going to be a pain in the ass. Look at it and separate them. Like, why?
Why do I
don't... Well, I don't... Those are just thoughts coming in. It isn't who I am.
You don't need to give a narrative to those thoughts. They
So,
are waves.
Yeah, if a thought comes in, I'm not worthy, but I don't get upset at it, that doesn't create electromagnetic field in order for that worrying to come in. If I believe it, I create electromagnetic field that attracts that I'm not worthy to me. So once I become separate from him, I am now like not drawing any emotion. Don't try to get rid of the statement I'm not worthy. Just know it's not true and
do not attach to it.
Don't attach to it. Then, I want to attach it to I am all powerful. Oh, that makes the hair on my neck. I can create anything I want. That's expanding my electromagnetic field. And then what happens is circumstances, situations show up to show you what you ask for is true. You always get. Asking shall be given. It always has. How are we asking? We don't ask verbally, although it can correlate. It does correlate. We ask emotionally, feeling. So when I say someone, I love you, they can tell I love them. I'm like, yeah, I love you. You know, it's like
no. I'm glad you bring that up.
Same words, but it's how did it represent?
The words generate that feeling, and Billy talks about this because Billy's in one of the next videos too. He's big about affirmations, like what we speak into existence comes, but
you have to feel
it's the feeling behind the speaking. That's what really is creating, you know, and drawing to you an experience.
Yeah, the words are definitely there's a correlation with them, but it's the energy. So like. Yeah, I love you, opposed to I love you. Mm-hmm. Same words. If I had written them down, you wouldn't know in what context I said it. You know, but if I did write it down, because energy travels, if I did write it down excitingly or sarcastically, you'd pick up on it. Mm-hmm. You would if you were sensitive to that. But as we start to understand it, how do we feel when we speak? That's the difference. How do we feel when we're in thought? That's the huge difference. And we do have control of that. Meditation will help you get that. That's the baseline. And meditation, we've said this many times before, it just simply means becoming familiar with. So if I become familiar with a feeling that I can experience anything I want and then send it out to the universe, it all of a sudden expands my electromagnetic field around me. And all of a sudden, all the parts show up. I want the parts to show up not knowing how. That's the excitement. I don't want to replicate my previous success. That's boring. I want a new, completely profound experience of success. One I don't know of, but I know it's there.
I love that.
Yeah.
See, he put up a quote, and for those who are listening, I want to read it out loud because he didn't read the quote, but while he was speaking, a quote was up on the screen from Eckhart Tolle. And the quote, I don't have the full quote in front of me, but the gist of it is he said, "You don't have a life, you are life." And when you can start to look at this experience as something that you are participating in, something that everything is a part of you, everything begins to change in a very, very quick way, but you also start to
quantum way.
Yeah, quantum way. You start to work with it, and you start to understand, and you see signs in, your friend sharing something with you, an experience with a stranger, a phone call from a relative, whatever. You start to see, oh my gosh, what I was previously interpreting as happening to me and was reacting to, I'm actually sending out a signal of and drawing to me. I remember when this clicked for me, it changed everything because now I don't look at me going out and having to react to what's going on outside of me. I look at, how I leave my house, how I go towards and forth in a day is how I'm going to experience that day. And this shift in how you perceive and work and interact with this place we call reality, it changes everything. And he talks about this too, from like a DNA, like an epigenetics, type of viewpoint, if you will. Yes, our DNA, it carries, traumas from previous generations, etc. But through the power of word, through the power of focus, we actually have the ability to change that and alter that. And science has proven this. And, he talks about this in the next clip about, these peer-reviewed studies, performed at MIT that have proven that how we look at a circumstance, how we talk about a circumstance affects the way we experience it. And there is nothing more powerful than that.
No, and we know this. Actually, it's easy. We know we can change our genetic makeup because if we didn't, we would look exactly like people did, or we would respond to the world exactly like people did 300 years ago. Yeah. As we start to sift and learn into new things, we actually, that's kind of epigenetics. As I change my beliefs and thoughts, I change the structure of the protein, which actually then gives birth to a new whole genetic cell. And we have control over that. So when you said that statement, I love that statement, you are life. Mm-hmm. You're not looking. So when you are life, if you are the director of the movie, don't get upset if you don't like it. Just change it.
And Billy talks about that all the time.
Change it. Like,
why are you upset? You're doing this.
You're the one directing the movie. You're the one writing the movie. How do you write it? Well, someone said I must write a bad movie, 10 bad movies before I have a good movie. I'm like, you'll never get to the 10th movie because no one's going to fund it if you're writing bad movies. Yep. It doesn't work that way.
Unless you're that guy, Kevin Smith. All of his movies suck.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
Jay.
Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah, that sucked. That was great.
No, that movie was funny, but some of his movies, I'm just always like, dude, you're killing me.
Well, he geared towards the lowest denomination. He did.
It's just funny.
Yeah, there's a part of every human being. It's like the Dumb and Dumber movies, right?
Hey, that's a classic, though. I love that movie.
Yeah, but actually, it's funny. Like you bring that movie up. Those reflect what we like. Why would you put a rock on the back to climb a tree proficiently? That's why he made those movies, Kevin Smith, to show you. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and we're sitting back like, why would he do that? I'm like, this is what we do. And that's why we like, why are we getting anywhere? I'm like, because you got a boulder on the back, and we weren't meant to carry a boulder. Mm-hmm. Just shove it off and stop. Like, oh my God, it's a lot easier to climb a tree.
It's a lot easier.
And then if someone climbed a tree, and because you don't know what the boulder looks like, it's on your back, and they climb a tree, and you're like, oh my God, that's a God. Now you start to worship that person, and that's how it gets weird. It's like, why does he? I'm like, no one's a God over us, our dominion, but we are. We all are. But we're just like, we're part, like the branch is part of the tree. So you don't say the branch, you're not a tree yet. I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm part of this thing. No, you're not. You're not a tree. You're just a branch.
See, and that's what Billy's getting at when he's like, dude, you are God, and he's not saying, oh, each one of you has this ego, use your ego to create this all-powerful, people are, less than you. No. Every single one of us is God. We are, like Frank just talked about, a fractal form of one whole. Yeah. Every single one of us. I forgot, was it the Dalai Lama, the one who was on the show with he was getting interviewed, and he was like, I know I'm God, but you don't know. No, was that who was that?
It wasn't him. It was some other Maharishi.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is,
I can't remember, but I love that story.
Yeah, since time, people have they're replicating that. It's been said a couple times, but yeah, it was like a reporter, an American reporter, kind of sarcastic, says, "So you're telling me you're God?" And he said, "Yes. But so are you. The difference is I know it and you doubt it."
Correct.
And it was pretty profound because it was profound enough for the network to actually show it. They could easily bury that.
Yeah, cut the clip, whatever.
Because it made the guy look like not an idiot because he didn't want to make him. he brought it back to you. He's like, yeah. He's like, are you telling me you're God? I'm like, yes, but so are you.
Mm-hmm.
So do not try to distinguish the difference between the difference is I know it and you doubt it. That's it.
We have this weird idea of separateness that's been conditioned into our culture. So we think if I'm this, I can't be that.
Well,
and that's where this stems from.
That's actually the true understanding of witchcraft. It's somebody that's holding some, like, I can get you, like, you're separate, but I can connect you. It's just going to cost you. And you have to join my church, and you have to come to me every week. And
I was going to say, that's not just witchcraft. That's religion. That's
well,
politics.
I'm saying religion is then witchcraft.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Witchcraft will always call something witchcraft. It always will. They don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
The person wielding the sword and blaming other people for the blood on the floor is not realizing they're wielding the sword. I'm like, come on. Once you step back and you realize that's all. Once I say this can only be done by this person through this, you must come here. This is the best. That's somewhat witchcraft because they're taking the power and they're deferring. But what happens is if I go in and believe that, and I go and do this, and all of a sudden, like things start to work out for me. Now I'm giving more power to them. I'm like, it worked out because you believe it would, not because you see what I'm saying.
Yep.
Now you can detach from it. You don't need this. And it's very interesting how you can get caught up in it. Yes, what I did was a correlation, but it was a mere permission slip. It wasn't the causation. It wasn't. Meditation is what made me feel good.
Well, just
meditation was just a correlation into me knowing I already felt good. Meditation allowed me to get the boulder off my back.
So science has proven this, that 1/3 of all medication is that's prescribed and used and received well is through the form of the placebo effect.
But even
1/3 of our medication,
even 100% of medication is still placebo
of
because
course.
If you say, okay, I went in, I watched the lab, and they put the molecules and everything else, and it has a signature frequency to it, yes, and I get that. It's not a sugar pill, yes, I get that. But if it was not a placebo, everyone would have the same effect when they're taking it.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is a placebo.
Correct.
Everything is. How I believe in it. So when a doctor, there was an orthopedic surgeon who did his own study on this. And he did it on knees, like arthritic knees. So there's two main surgeries you do. One you go, I don't know the names of them, but they would do that standard. So you depending on the doctor, the surgeon, you choose one or the other. What he did is he took 3 groups and he performed the 2 that are traditional, and then he did the one. He just sliced open the knee, sprayed saline water in, sewed it back up.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty what we call basic surgeries now. Then studied all of them. And based on his performance of letting them know that they're going to heal perfectly, they all 3 groups healed at the same rate. And then it's like, well, why didn't the other people? Because they simply didn't buy into it, even though they actually had the actual surgery. They just simply didn't buy into it, whatever degree it would. So if you go into the doctor and you're down it, you might want to go home and get into a better mood before you go to the doctor because it's going to come true. See, honey, I told you, Karen, see, I told you. Yeah. And it's my fault for buying into it, and I fell off. I'm like, damn, why did Karen put that in my head? Now I'm giving too much power for her. That's why she stuck that thing on the floor for me to go crawl to. If you're a god, go get it. I'm like, well, gods don't need that shit.
Crawl over there.
Yeah, crawl over there. So I'm a god crawling on the floor. Like, But what it is we forget. And we forget, and it was funny because I sat on the couch. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks next week, and we walk around. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like this all in my head. I sat, meditated, and the pain didn't completely go away because there's a part of me that's still attending to it. I understand it. I fully understand it, but it doesn't mean I always fully practice to its fullest. But I'm learning, and I laugh. But the more I laugh, the more I let go, the pain dissipates. It does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's why pain goes away on all people. They just tired of thinking about it.
Stop focusing on it.
Well,
as soon as we don't focus on something, it goes away.
The Heisenberg principle is you give enough time, you're just tired of thinking about it.
See, the weird thing is we've been taught and conditioned in this society that if we don't give attention to something, that we are ignoring it and we are putting our head in the sand. This could not be further from the truth. by you putting something, out of sight, out of mind, or whatever, if you want to say it, you are sending out a frequency.
Well, depends what you're putting your attention on too.
Well, of course.
Because you can be like, because people will do this. They'll be like, okay, I'm not going to worry about back. I'm going to worry about work. I'm like, that's sticking your head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
If I want my back to heal, I gotta put my attention on health.
Yeah.
So you have to. So there is a point where people do put their head in the sand and end up in the doctors and they die.
Of course.
It's because they didn't focus on their health, or they didn't focus on the power that could be given to them. So they put their attention on some other worry, another worry, and that worry distracted them from the cancer they had. So this is real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to turn my cells around from cancer cells into health cells, I have to put my attention onto how powerful I am. That's going to change my electromagnetic field. If I just put my attention on, let's go to a movie so I distract myself, that's
two total different vibrations.
Yeah,
two total
that is
different
sticking your head in the sand.
Energy, being released. You know, where you put your focus and attention, it will expand.
Yeah.
That actually leads perfectly into this next clip too. Let's take a listen to this one.
And so you probably heard of the 42 ideals of Mayat. Now, this is the text where a lot of interesting religious contexts come from in regards to how to live on this planet. They're called commandments, and also positive affirmations that you can speak out loud to yourself. And these positive affirmations are just as powerful as any of the ones that we use today. These are some of the original positive affirmations. And what scientists found now is that if you say positive affirmations out loud to yourself for 21 days, you literally can rewrite your DNA. So if you're a person that's talking negative to yourself, if you're doubting yourself, if you're saying I'm no good, I suck, and you're doubting, and you're really is what you're doing is you're cursing yourself when you're doing those things. You're telling yourself that you can't do something. Okay, you got to take that T off the end and say can. And so when you say these positive affirmations, if you're able to read these positive affirmations out loud for 21 days, 3 times a day, what you're going to find is a couple of things. The first thing is your outlook on life, yourself, and other people is going to change. The next thing is you're going to become more confident. Confidence is going to build and grow in your own personal self and your own personal experiences and what you're capable of doing. And the third thing that's going to happen is you're going to literally rewrite your DNA. And that rewriting of the DNA, it takes out and starts to clip out a lot of the epigenetic memories that have been stored from past ancestors that had different types of torturous mental states of PTSD, of enslavement, of fears and hurts and doubts. All of those get passed down through the RNA into the body and write themselves in as code. And so by saying these positive affirmations 3 times a day out loud, you begin to cut out and clip out those pieces. There's a whole workshop where I do that shows the science behind this, and it's real peer-reviewed science. This is stuff that they teach at MIT, one of the top technological universities on the planet. Okay?
That's exactly what we were talking about right before that.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I was like, this is a perfect little segue.
Yeah. Well, that's how things work.
Yep.
It's called like the synchronicity flow. And it's true. It's like we're in a day and age where even the average person has heard what Billy Carson was just talking about right now. And like once you hear enough, if you haven't been doing it to experience it, you can write it off all you want, but it's true. Because we're saying affirmations every moment of every day. But when you consciously do it, you would only choose the affirmations that's going to move you in the direction in which you want to experience.
Well, explain that, because like what's an unconscious affirmation? Ugh, I look so fat today. Ugh,
yeah.
I today's going to be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. These constant ideas that float to the top of our head, and then we latch onto them and we say that's us.
And that's why so getting into a meditative practice, you don't have to, but it helps. Is when if you wake up in the morning, and we know this, you were sleeping for 8 hours or what have you, and you get out of bed, the race for the negative principles, if that's what or the negative thoughts, aren't really built up yet. You're at a neutral state. So if you can make your way, say, to the couch or a chair and start to meditate, just by meditation, just detach it from any thought, via good or bad, just detach from it, all of a sudden your frequency of vibration raises higher. And when it raises higher, saying I'm great is easy. It's like when I get to the top of the mountain, telling people the landscape is easier. Otherwise, I'm just making shit up. I'm lying to myself. I hope it's like this. I hope it's like that. Well, I get higher up, I'm like, oh, this is how it is. I can see it. I can see the traffic there, you know? So you don't want to hope your way through life. You want to know your way through life. And when I get into in the morning, when I meditate, I wake up in the morning, I'm pretty neutral. You know, this morning I woke up, God damn, my back. I'm like, Karen pushed me out of bed. I had to roll out of bed. So it's everything. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. Because I didn't want to let him know.
Feel great.
So I went on the couch and I started meditating, and it was alleviating. And I'm laughing because I'm the one holding on to that. Like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. A week from now, why did I do that? And as I hold on to it, what does the universe do? Gives me more.
Tightens it up.
Well, it wants. The universe says, listen, I'm going to support your belief structure. I'm going to really support the shit out of this. You think you shouldn't have done that? I'm going to show you shouldn't have done it. I'm going to really show you should have done it. I'm like, oh, damn.
That is how
and
it
then
works.
I picked up on it. I started doing this meditation. But if I woke up and just felt the pain, I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm telling myself, the pain could have dissipated before I even made the couch to meditate. We live in a quantum universe. But we also have momentum. So if I have a momentum of negative beliefs, and if you're going 100 miles an hour the wrong direction, in understanding the physics of this world, I do not suggest you make a U-turn. Take your foot off the gas. The car naturally slows down. Then when it's applicable, you apply the brakes. And then when it's reasonable, you actually then make the car turn. But if you try to turn...
Well, give an example of that. So, like, if you're suicidal, you're depressed, you are not going to immediately turn into life is amazing, life is great, correct?
Suicide actually is making you turn 100 miles an hour. You're ending it. But if you, like, are drinking or doing that stuff like that. So if you're upset, like, I know how to... somebody watching the other day, and it was kind of the example. Like they were talking about their husband was in prison, and one of the clips they heard was about anxiety, and they're like, "Well, how do I turn anxiety into excitement?" And they weren't being sarcastic. You could tell they were hurt. And I'm like, and I started out, you don't. It's not you that does it, but when you sit with anxiety and you accept it, the anxiety starts to alleviate. When you don't try to change the direction of the car right away and you take your foot off the gas, the car naturally slows down. Now, when you get to that point when the anxiety is high, and why is anxiety high? Is because this poor woman's trying to figure out how to run a family. I don't know the dynamics of it, why her husband's in jail. Well, that's where anxiety, I'm like, we don't figure that stuff out. It's figured out for us. But if you try to figure it out, the universe is going to show you can't do that. If you let go of it, and then slip. So be one with the anxiety. Be one with the fact that you're heading in the wrong direction. Accept it. Once you accept it, take the foot off the gas. Now you're more clear-headed. You put the brakes on. Now you see the exit. Now you make the U-turn. Now you head in the right direction. Once you start heading in the direction you want to go, you're already there. There is just direction. It's not a destination. It's all it is. And so that's what an affirmation is. But when you catch yourself in an affirmation, just laugh like, oh, shit. Take your foot off the gas. You know, the frustration, okay. But you can't stay frustrated for long. You go from frustrated to just slightly agitated. You're moving in the right direction. That's all you need to know. And that's it.
So I love in this clip, he talks about, MIT, a school we can all respect. We know it's a great school, et cetera. He's talking about these concepts being discussed. He said, these ideas of these affirmations being performed, 3 times daily for 21 days are scientifically backed, peer-reviewed, meaning scientists have, published this, reviewed it, all that type of stuff. It absolutely plays a role in what you're experiencing. So if we know that MIT, we know that, science has proven this, and we all respect science. Science is just simply a language for us all to, better understand these ideas. But to not apply them would just be ignorant. Like, why would I not, knowing, okay, if I want to see positive changes in my lifestyle, if I want to achieve what my goals are, start with these affirmations of success, of having, of being worthy, in order to move that ball along to get you there quicker. For some reason, there's something inside each of us, where it's like, oh, we don't believe it's like that. It's different for me, or whatever, but it's not. And when you start to apply these affirmations, things really do change. And I selected this clip because me personally, it was probably 2 years of me understanding these concepts, and I never used affirmations.
Well, you did. They were just not the affirmations you would have chose.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, we
or the
always use affirmations.
I would have chose.
You wouldn't have an experience without an affirmation.
That's a great point. And so, like, when I understood that, I'm like, oh, it very much clicked, and I started to apply and use these affirmations that were serving me, serving my goals, serving, my experience. And how quickly they begin to work is mind-blowing. And it just is more of a testament that what we call reality and what we're living is not so real. We're actually experiencing our affirmations, our thoughts, our mind in real life, and calling it real.
Yeah. And what I suggest people, because I remember someone telling me this years ago, and this became profound for me. It may or may not for anyone listening. When I look back in the life, they're like, okay, look at the life you're in that you don't like. You created that. So if you created that, what else can you create? But we don't think we created it through our affirmations. Once I became aware, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm creating this through my affirmations, and then there's all the inputs of it and how I'm seeing it, if I just use it in the direction in which I want to go, like the car will still, if I'm doing 100 miles an hour going away from the direction in which I want to go, the mechanics of the car are the same. The RPMs don't rev higher because I'm going in the wrong direction. I do in my head, but the car will still move 100 miles an hour effortlessly in the direction in which you want to go as well. But now, me knowing I'm going in the direction in which I want to go pleases me, and it becomes effortless. You ever notice you're driving a car and you're late for something? It feels like you're pushing the car, but you're not. It's the inner turmoil. But that inner turmoil is working, because when you go in the wrong direction, now there's an accident, now there's traffic. Oh, shit, the red light.
The
universe like, hey, I can play this game really good. If you direct me to make life bad, I will make life bad in the definition of what you think the life is bad. Because people are like, oh, I want green lights all here. I'm like, I'm like, a red light means I could text my buddy. I'm saying, I don't want to do it when it's green. So I don't look at red lights and green lights as good or bad anymore. I don't look at the front parking spot in the store I want to go as good or bad anymore. It just is. Because all of a sudden people stop playing the game and they want to leave out the what we understand is the law of polarity. I'm like, so if you get to the mall and you don't get the front spot, you're like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm like, no, maybe you need to crush a couple of calories today. And, there's a whole dynamic system going on. And, it's funny, but you can set it up that way. And my point is this, when that happens, you redirect, and maybe it is, I got the spot in the back, but I want to get more of my Fitbit miles in, or whatever the hell you use.
No, I'm so glad you brought this up. So this last week, my brother came to me. Very similar type of scenario. He went out to his vehicle and he pulled this handle on his car and the whole handle came off the door. And he's like, what the hell? And he came in and I was like, hey, just go to the side, click it twice, it should unlock going through the side of the back of one of your back doors. So he did that. It worked, and then he calls me like an hour later. He's like, you won't believe this. When I just was driving, my front left tire just blew out on me, and and he's like, I called AAA. They came here and they told me the right tire's about to go. I gotta go get all new tires. And he goes, Mike, I just feel like the universe, and a door handle. I gotta go do both of these. And this was the same day in a matter of an hour or two. And he's like, I just feel like the universe is punishing me. And I go, whoa. The universe is never here to punish you. ever.
No.
The universe, that is a very that's like the way the ego would interpret something.
Yeah,
oh,
it's
this
like,
is happening to me.
It's like saying gravity made me jump off the building.
Yeah,
Gravity has
exactly.
nothing to do with gravity. Just works.
So what's happening is never to punish you, ever. So don't interpret it that way. It's more an experience of where you're at. What are you casting out? What are you projecting? That it's showing you. Maybe it's telling you to slow down. But it's not there to punish you.
No, and that's interesting because there is something designed in this mechanism, and we know this, that what we call negative attributes, like your brother having
car
issues. If just the door handle went off, came off, and that was it, he would have had this long, steady aspect of like feeling dormant. Mm-hmm. But because he came to a breaking point, he's like, "What's going on?" That's the moment when life changes. When he says things happen in threes. I'm like, if you are conscious, things can happen in ones.
Seriously,
it happens. Like some people, it happens 5 times. Oh, there, it's pretty dense. It's like something's. I might have to change the way I do things because
you think?
Yeah. But when you recognize it and like get bad news, all of a sudden you fall to your knees, and when you fall to knees, you let go. It's like letting go of the boulder. Now when you just finally let go, it's like, wow, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, it is the way I've been permeating. I felt a little agitation this morning, and then I grabbed the thing. I felt more agitation. Driving blows out. I felt more agitation. Yeah. Then the guy comes like, yeah, I got bad news.
He's going to need all these tires.
Oh, no tires. Shit.
He was like, don't drive above 50. You can go 10 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what's going on? And when you say the universe is punishing me, it was his way of saying what is going on. And I'm like, listen, don't go back and beat yourself up, but it started creeping in. But it woke you up to ask you what is going on.
It's so funny you say that. That's what I told him.
If he got used to living that way, that would not be good.
Well, and when I told him, I said, Tom, most people, these experiences happen to, like you just described, and they think, oh, I'm just having a bad day. No. The fact that you had the awareness to say, hey, what's going on, universe? What are you trying to show me? Like, that in itself is a huge step in the right direction. Like, this universe is very much a participatory universe. So if I'm playing into that, why are these happening? Why did these events happen? Where he, stopped short was just hey, this universe is trying to punish me. No,
so
it's not trying to punish you.
What you're saying, Karen is my universe.
There you go.
She's always showing me.
But, like that's what it is. And so it was kind of cool. And that was like a situation, I had with my brother where I was like, the awareness that you have that, hey, you're participating in this, that right there is something that should be, applauded, something that you should be happy about. Most people go, oh, can you believe this happened to me today? And they talk about like the world as if it's just happening to them, and they're not playing this role of like interacting with it. And this is why it's hard to have conversations with people who are like, can you believe I lost my job and then this happened and this happened? All these people out there, it's ridiculous. And it's like, no, absolutely, I totally can believe that. You're sitting here talking about everything that's wrong, why you hate life and all this stuff, and you're saying, why does bad stuff keep happening to me? Look at what you're focusing on.
It's because you're driving the car in reverse.
Yep. Thinking the world outside of me is happening to me.
The car is still moving, but it's very laborious in its act. And it's laborious without even knowing it has a drive forward movement. So instinctively, we know coming into this place what efficient is. People that are doing really well in life don't try to improve their life. They don't. Their life is already there. They just do more of it. So if you're trying to improve your life, something's going on. I don't try to improve my life. I just go into it and expand. Now, years ago, I spent a lot of money trying to improve my life. Now I'm trying to just get into that stream and see where it takes me. And now I consciously know how to get in there with these principles. And I stay there. Once in a while, I get distracted and get out, like this morning with my back. Why did I do that? And I'm like, oh, shit. I did it for the experience. It's not going to stop me from ever doing it again. But that's not what happened. Something bled into me. And I can't blame Karen because she'll slit my throat. But when I was leaving, it's like, don't get hurt. I'm like, why would you say that?
Why would you say that?
Yeah, why would you say that? So, but it was my inability to overcome the power of her saying that, And I'm like, damn, she's right. But so yeah. But then I laugh about it, and the pain goes away. It's that's kind of how it is.
That's it.
So now it's like, why would I buy into that if I didn't want that to happen, right? And once it happened, though, I had to surrender to it. And like, it's gonna heal. I know it's gonna heal. Rather than keep blaming myself and doing this and I shouldn't have done that. All of a sudden, that is just going to aggravate my body, and all of a sudden, the ability for my body to produce the healing power isn't going to come. Yep. And I was like, God damn it, this lasted a week rather than a couple of hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How are you interpreting a situation? Where are you putting your energy? Where are you putting your focus? What do you want to see expand?
Yeah. And know this: I don't care who you are. Again, Jesus said, even the least among you can do as I've done and even greater. Because his awareness and his expansion keeps going beyond the point of where he was and where he was going. It always does. It doesn't mean it's going to be better. He uses the word less than and greater. It's difference. So we're not better. We're just having a greater understanding. I'll never get to a better place than I am now. But I'll have a greater understanding tomorrow. Especially after having a talk with Karen. I'm sure.
And then a week
Hope I
later.
don't get in trouble for
and
this.
then a year later. That podcast puts you in the doghouse for a month.
I'm going to have to skip this one.
You don't need to listen to this week.
Yeah, it is. It's nonsense. But I'll tell a list of Billy Carson on her own. Just don't
Hell
go through.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is. So we're already. So, but I'll keep it becoming greater in my understanding and information. That I know is just so. And now because I know that, I don't try to get there. I don't try. I'm already there. But I get greater of there. I get more of there. But it's not better or in the aspect of over something. It's just simply greater. Yeah.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Well, if you guys liked what you heard today, Billy Carson has a ton of content out there. A ton. He's got his own network. Go check it out. It's called Forbidden Knowledge, and 4 with the number 4. You can find that, like a online streaming. Yeah, app.
Yeah, get it on your phone. You can get it on on TV or whatever. It's like
Smart TVs,
it's Netflix.
Yeah.
It's like a Netflix app.
Just like a Gaia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So he's got that. He's got several books. He's got a ton of YouTube content.
Yeah.
Get out there and take a listen. He'll challenge you to think in ways that you have never thought before. And when we do that, guys, when we think in ways that we haven't been challenged to think before, what we're doing is we're creating new neural pathways that allow us to experience life in a different way.
Yeah.
That's why learning is so important. Frank and I will forever be students, and it's because if you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah.
You're literally dying.
Well, you're getting bored.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so Billy Carson is just so brilliant. Go out there, look at his content, listen to him, how he talks about, the past, Egypt, relates it to current, affairs, science. He brings in quantum physics. He brings in physics, all of this. He marries them all so well.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys take a listen to him.
And I want to add one more other thing here. Like, if you have trouble creating affirmations, just listen to Billy Carson and likes of him is an affirmation.
Yep.
If you have trouble just sitting on your couch, close your eyes, in it. But if you're driving a car and just listen to the content, that is the affirmation. It'll eventually sink into your psyche. So that's how it worked for me. Listen to everyone from like Alan Watts years ago. All of a sudden, I kept hearing more of that, and I realized that is the truth, and that became my affirmation.
Yep.
And Billy Carson's one of those people. He's really nails it.
He does.
All right, people.
Thanks for joining us this week. If you like what you heard, go ahead and like and comment, subscribe below. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, peace out.